growing up, I ate a lot of Nestle chocolates, including Nesquik, which is their sort of like chocolate milkshake drink, and I would eat Yorkie bars, and around Christmas I would always eat Quality Street chocolates.
I remember baking Nestle Toll House cookies for my family growing up. I also made a lot of brownies. I'm sure they own at least one brownie mix brand.
Buried in the good, there is also bad. Ivory Coast is one of the strongest economies in West Africa. The country has loose immigration policies and limited border security. As a result, many migrants flow into Ivory Coast in search of jobs on cocoa farms. Some by their own volition, others not. There are documented cases of young children, often from Mali or Burkina Faso, forced into jobs for low or no pay on the cocoa farms. For almost 200 years, the Alien Tort Statute was rarely used. Then, in 1980, that changed with a series of cases that pushed the limits of holding companies accountable for their foreign actions right here in the United States.
The facts in Nestle are heartbreaking, but all too familiar for those of us who work in this space. So specifically, 6 individuals from Mali were allegedly trafficked into the Ivory Coast as child slaves to produce cocoa. US-based companies Nestle and Cargill buy cocoa from those farms. The plaintiffs allege that their conduct aided and abetted their child slavery. So as a legal platform, their lawyers, among many rights advocates out there, recognize that there's not a viable legal platform in the country where a lot of these issues arise. So for instance, in the Ivory Coast, the judicial system is really slated in favor of multinational corporations. The plaintiffs argue that aiding and abetting child slavery was a violation of international law and thus an applicable cause of action in US courts. In support, they showed that the defendants bought cocoa from the farms located in the Ivory Coast that had enslaved them. The plaintiffs also provided evidence that the defendants had procured those farms with technical and financial resources, such as training, fertilizer, tools, and cash, in exchange for the exclusive right to purchase cocoa.
There are 2 types of child labor. Not both of them are necessarily bad. In many cases, labor is an opportunity for families to pass on their heritage of cocoa farming. This type of agriculture is central to the pride of Ivorians, who are the world's largest producers of cocoa.
First of all, what I can say that is the definition of child labor from the farmer's perspective is different from maybe the international, organization. In the cocoa farmers industry, like you said, a parent can have 5 children and he will use some of his children to work in his farm. From his own perspective, it's not part of child labor, because in our culture it's like if you work as a father, maybe you will transmit. It's like transmitting the heritage. Heritage is like a kind of, in our culture, a responsibility that the father is giving to his children. For example, like this is your heritage. You need to take care of it, even if you go to school.
When I inquired about what you are working on or what you are interested in, I was informed from 2 different parties, right? That actually, and these are Malians, right? Because I chose specifically the Malians to talk to, because I'm like, how can I not be so much aware of this sector? But you guys, since you've been working here way before me, maybe you know. They're like, no, they don't know about this thing. What are you talking about, Abdi? In a normal standard family, so I am the dad and I have like 5 kids. So the way I see it, I have 5 resources. All right. I used to collect 5 kg a day alone. Now I have 5 times 5. I'm as a family, as a dad, I'm now going to be collecting 25 kgs a day. Right. So I see it as a good thing. Right. Now, the role in terms of education of these big multinationals is to say, hey, okay, yes, you have 5 kids. Yes, they're your kids. but yeah, these kids should be in school. and we will facilitate that, right? We rehabilitate the school. So, and this is the future your kids will have when they go to school. And any kid, underage, please let them focus, and we will pay you more so that you let them actually go to school, right? So they have that education, because if they close an eye on it or they pretend they don't know what's happening, because legally, as we said, they have that window to not look. He doesn't see it as a bad thing. The mentality is not there. So it's like you are doing something, you don't think it's bad, but legally it's not acceptable. It's very, very normal, yeah. And instead of fines, I think maybe best practices should be imposed, right? A fine is definitely, as I mentioned, maybe not like a sustainable solution, right? It can be like, but people will always find loopholes in the system. Those loopholes are there for that reason, to escape those kind of punishments.
Because then, like, you're really getting the shit end of the deal, like really the bad version of it, nothing that you've been promised, but it's still better than what you had in your country. And that makes it extremely hard to blame other people for this, because then people can always leverage but you still chose, to do this, which I think is, you're not really choosing if you're in the place of weakness. That's my personal thing. I don't think people are choosing if they're in the place of weakness. Like, we had an expression in Ivory Coast that like the hand below is always the one begging, and does not make the request, because you're the one asking. So in that position, how could you be asking for much more or advocate for yourself, because you're already below?
The Nestle case shows the Supreme Court's continued caution against using the United States judicial system as a forum for international human rights litigation without congressional direction. And yet, legislative attempts to hold United States corporations accountable for forced child labor in the cocoa industry have also had a limited impact. Nestle makes it more difficult to hold United States corporations responsible for international harms they finance or support, but don't directly create. This begs the question: who bears the burden to prevent forced child labor abroad? The Ivorian government? Multinational corporations under their own pretenses? Local communities on the ground? Perhaps the American judicial system via the pressure it can place on complicit US-based organizations? Or is there a role for all of these actors to play together in limiting forced child labor?
I think the contribution of everybody is very good, international entities, local entities, because, of course, the cocoa industry is the most organized agriculture industry in Côte d'Ivoire.